All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining another DevTest Community Webcast. Today's presentation is going to be on the brand new release, DevTest 10.3. We're going to cover some new features for the product as well as the path for upgrading. If you have any questions as we're going through today's session, you can feel free to put them into the Q&A box that's located on the right-hand panel of your WebEx screen. You can click on the blue box in the top right-hand corner with a question mark in it. If you click on that, that'll expand the Q&A box. You can type your question in there, and we'll get to it when we have a pause in the presentation. We'll also be opening up the line for verbal questions at the end of the session today. So if you have a question that you'd rather ask over the phone, you can hold them until the end, and we'll open up the line at that time. On the phone today, we have Beverly Mindel and Kostu Bordi. They're both members of the Service Virtualization product team. They're going to be walking you through a presentation as well as a demo. So I'm going to now turn the call over to Beverly so we can go ahead and get started. You can take it away, Beverly.
Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate the introduction. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to share with you what's new in Service Virtualization 10.3 and what functionality you can expect to find, as well as what is the process to actually getting it installed and getting it working on your system. How would you be able to upgrade to 10.3? And that really is the focus of today's presentation. It really is designed for our clients and our partners in order to take away what is new in 10.3, how to utilize those features, and really how to be able to upgrade. And it really shouldn't be used outside of that purpose. And that really follows our agenda as well. So we're going to start with, why upgrade to 10.3, what are the features and functionality you can expect to find, along with a demo of some of those features. And then we'll talk about how to upgrade, the tips and tricks in order to get your system upgraded to the newest version, what resources are available to help you with that process. And of course, we'll want any questions that you have about any of the topics that we're talking about today in terms of the functionality that's available in 10.3 or the process of upgrading. So jumping into why upgrade. First of all, as you guys are aware, we do announce when versions are no longer supported. And in order to make sure that you get quick and patches to features that you might, or patches if you need them to our support experts, we do recommend that you're on a version that is supported. And so we do encourage our clients to upgrade to ensure that they stay on a supported version, as well as we encourage our clients to upgrade in order to get the newest and greatest features that are available within our Service Virtualization product. And I'm using, when I say Service Virtualization, it includes Service Virtualization and Application Tests. I'm just using that as the name. And from a high-level perspective, I want to jump into what are those features and functionality you can get excited about. And we'll dig into these a little bit deeper, but from a high-level perspective, in 10.3, we've introduced a virtual service catalog. We've also enhanced our enterprise dashboard reporting and our ROI calculator. These features and functionalities were introduced in 10.2, and we've enhanced those features and functionality based on feedback we've received from our clients. We've also made improvements to our API functionality, specifically regarding test execution and reporting, as well as in 10.3, MQ9 protocol is supported, as well as the ability to be able to use proxy servers when recording virtual services through gateway mode. In addition to the features and functionality that we've introduced, we continue to make improvements to our own internal processes and to our own engineering practices, as well as prepare for what's coming up down the road. And we'll talk about these features in more depth, but this is a high level of what we're going to be talking about today. One of the features I really want to highlight is the virtual service catalog. This is a central repository that can be used to find and view virtual services that have been deployed to specific VSEs. And this is a separate installer, so if you were to go to our support at ca.com and you were to go to the download center and select the service virtualization product, you will see, in addition to our standard DevTest installers by operating system, an option to also install and download the Virtual Service Catalog installer. And from there, once you run the installer and set it up, you'll have a single dashboard where you'll be able to view virtual services. And the reason for this, as we've heard from our clients, is that they may have different teams that want to leverage or share existing assets. They don't want to necessarily have to start over with a virtual service. Maybe there's a common service that's shared across different teams. Maybe a service doesn't change very frequently. And so they want to be able to find, access, and leverage a service that is available. And so from the central repository, you're able to see what are the virtual services that have been deployed to your environment and make sure that they have the right data scenarios for you to be able to use them. And we'll be demoing this functionality as well. But from a high-level perspective, that's what it's trying to solve, is really making it easier for teams to be able to share and leverage those assets. In addition, we've enhanced the enterprise dashboard reporting, really allowing for a more granular view of the transactions by virtual service environment as well as by virtual service. And so we'll dig into how you can get a more granular view within the enterprise dashboard, really giving you an opportunity to understand how is your enterprise utilizing service virtualization. And then using that information can also help you determine what is the return on investment that you and your organization are getting from service virtualization. So I'm going to take a minute and actually show you some of the new features and functionality live. And I am at this point sharing my screen. And I'm going to start with the service virtualization, the virtual service catalog, excuse me. And with the virtual service catalog, after you install, the first thing that you'll do is you'll run your identity and access manager and log in. This is just to set up which users have rights to access your virtual service catalog. If you use LDAP as a way to manage your users, what you can do here is select, I apologize, I need to re-log in. You can set up your LDAP provider. I'll go back, where you just set up your LDAP provider. And then you'll fill in the information that you would need in order to, specify that provider. You are able to test that you have a valid connection and that you have the right authentication. Once you've set up that LDAP provider, you can then also apply the mapping criteria, so the mapping of the users to their roles. Similarly to in DevTest service virtualization, you do have the option as well to specify users directly in the database. So if you want to manage existing users, you have the option to view all users. By default, we do have an admin user to help you get set up and to log in, but you can edit that information, make sure that you change the password to something different. When you're ready to add a new user, you can go ahead and click Add New User, specify the username, indicate the credentials, and then specify what roles this user should have rights to. So ACL admin would have rights to come into Identity and Access Manager and manage and add and edit new users. VSC admin, this would be an administrator to the virtual service catalog. This would allow you to enable new enterprise dashboard connections within the catalog. And the VSC user has read-only access to be able to access and view what's in the catalog, but is not able to specify any connections. And users can be a part of more than one group. Once you've created the users, you can go ahead and log into the virtual service catalog. I'm actually already logged in at this point. I am an admin. I do see the option to manage my enterprise dashboard connections. If I were to click on Manage Enterprise Dashboard Connections, it does take me to the connection page where I can specify the location of my enterprise dashboard. I also can see, for example, a status of my registries that are connected there and whether or not they're connected or active. If I did not have access to this Manage, all I would see is the option to view all virtual services. And when I select that, it will take me to the list of the virtual service tab. From here, I do have the option to choose the information I want to see or filter by, so I can pick the information that's most important for me to view. I do have the option to, for example, right now I'm filtered on a data protocol, so I am able to filter or unfilter my list of virtual services based on what I'm looking for. So typically, we would see that clients might filter by a specific operation. They might be looking for a virtual service that has a specific operation that they are looking for, or specific data scenarios, or a combination of. And all you have to do, for example, is type. And you could type more than this, and then hit Enter to filter, your list of virtual services that you're finding based on the scenarios that you're looking for. I can hover over and see the list of all of the operations as well that are available. And if I click to learn more, or I click on a specific virtual service, it will actually take me to more details around that virtual service. So I may find a specific, signature that I'm interested in, and I can actually look at the specifics and see, is the data scenario that I am interested in, is it available? And so I can review and make sure that this virtual service does indeed meet my needs, that I am able to utilize it. And if it doesn't, maybe I select a different virtual service that may have the signature as well that I'm looking for. In addition to understanding, the specifics and the response, if there is a raw request as well, there is an option as well to see that raw request directly from that detailed view of that virtual service. So that's, in a high level, how the virtual service catalog works. Again, it's only showing the virtual services that are available based on the enterprise dashboard connections that you've made. And it's showing for those enterprise dashboards all of the virtual services that have been deployed to a VSC. And it allows for quick and easy finding and searching for virtual services based on the data you're looking for, as well as an ability to dig in a little bit deeper to see, is this virtual service meet my needs of what I'm wanting to test? Can I consume it the way it is? Does it have the data scenarios that I'm looking for? I'm going to switch over to talk about the enterprise dashboard next. From the enterprise dashboard, some of the enhancements that we've made is really allowing kind of a new view of seeing your total transaction usage and your virtual service usage. But we also have an option to view advanced metrics in this area. So if I view the advanced metrics in the transaction area for a given time period, I can see how many transactions I'm currently doing, as well as how many transactions I'm trending to do by that end of that time period. I can see, again, the detailed view each day of the transactions that I've done, and this is focused right now on my functional transactions. I could switch. I don't have the Performance VSC set of transactions, but if I switch to Performance VSC, I would see the data for performance transactions as well. So it is separated from functional and performance. For virtual service usage, again, I can see how am I trending or what are my virtual service usage over time. I can see for those virtual services what VSCs have they been deployed to. And overall, for the given list of VSCs, what is that transaction count? But I can also go in a little bit deeper by clicking on the VSC and actually see which virtual services have the transactions that are associated with it. So that gives me a detailed understanding of how am I actually utilizing the transactions within each virtual service. This may give me an understanding of how different teams are utilizing the service virtualization products, as well as, specified potentially by different projects. It just allows kind of a deeper dive from one location to see a high-level understanding of how you're consuming or utilizing the service virtualization tool. And this really leads nicely into being able to understand what is the return on investment that I'm getting from service virtualization. We introduced the ROI calculator earlier, but what we've done is we've also enhanced it. So based on feedback, we have improved kind of the verbiage and explanation of how we're doing the calculations. We've also allowed, before there would be an option to indicate the number of full-time employees, but we would be using an industry standard blended rate. And while you can still use the default industry standard blended rate, this may be something you know for your organization. Your organization may pay more or less than the industry standard, and you might know that full-time rate. So you can adjust that information either by sliding or by entering into the box what your full-time employee rate is, just to get a more accurate count. Again, we've done that sort of split, allowing you to specify your own costs, if you know them, throughout the ROI calculator. We've also allowed for us to take the information from the enterprise dashboard, such as the average transactions that you might have per month or the average number of virtual services per month, and if there's a cost savings per that amount, you are able to then indicate what that cost savings is, and it will auto-calculate and fill in that information. You can, of course, still edit it, and you can refresh to make sure it's pulling the latest information. If an area you think is already covered, right, the savings per transaction, you might say, I don't have a specific calculation for that, or I'm not quite sure that I want to include that. You are able to also uncheck that area, and it will no longer be in your calculation. And as you do ROI calculations, if you do them, for example, for different teams, you can export the results to Excel so that you can understand at various points what was your ROI savings for the given teams that you actually had fill in this information or you filled this information for. I am going to return back to the deck. We're going to talk about a couple other features. Another feature that was introduced is enhancing our API functionality regarding task execution and reporting. I am going to go ahead and share my screen a little bit on that as well. So one of the areas that we really wanted to enhance was our testing and reporting back on tests and test suites through our API, so being able to do that programmatically. And so we have this functionality both within our documentation as well as within our Swagger specifications. Basically, you have the option to either deploy a test or a test suite. And within the Swagger, I can actually post or deploy a MAR just by choosing a file. Now, I'm actually not going to run one at this moment, but I could actually deploy the MAR and try it out. And based on that run, I get an ID, and I could then programmatically run against that ID and basically see whether or not it has passed, failed, or it's still running. And so if it's still running, I can have it, if I were to use, a CI/CD way of generating it, right? If I were to set it up to be deployed from like a Jenkins, I could have it keep testing until it's either passed or failed. And once it's passed or failed, I can choose, for example, if it's failed, to look at the detailed reports based on that test ID. One of the nice things as well within this new API is we do reference the ability to drill down further, so where you are today as well as what is the next thing you would potentially want to look at. And you can get the same detailed reporting as you do in the portal, just like you can when you're monitoring a test. So you could get all the way to see what is the assertions that I have, any sort of error messages that may have come up when it failed, all the same details that you would see by the monitoring section of the test of the portal when you can drill in, you can get programmatically through this API. In addition to that enhanced API functionality, we've also, as I mentioned before, support MQ9. And then additionally, we heard from our clients that they wanted to use gateway mode to record their virtual services, but they may have a proxy server set up in their environment. And so you can now utilize and indicate in the configuration file of that proxy server, but still use the gateway mode option when recording your virtual services, and it will handle that. Some other functionality that we've shared, and I just wanted to take an opportunity to share it as well today, is we do have a couple of free offerings. We do have our Code SC, which is an ability to kind of virtualize endpoints through code focused on, Java, HTTP traffic. And you can this would allow kind of a developer to utilize their IDE in order to, virtualize the endpoints that they're looking for. Really focused on that developer use case and reducing the friction of trying to learn or requiring them to learn a new tool by allowing them to do it within code, as well as our Service Virtualization Community Edition, which is really an opportunity to have a simple, interface, a quick process to be able to create, your simple web service virtual services. If you go to codesv.io, you can learn more about CodeSV, as well as get an opportunity to see examples of how would you actually go about building your virtual services through code. Within Community Edition, right, you can go to trials.ca.com in order to download it. The look and feel is very simple. You basically have the option to start building your virtual service, and you can go ahead and start a recording, see the list of transactions that you have, and be able to create the virtual service from that. Based on feedback that we've received, we also have updated our Community Edition to also have a lighter theme available, as well as an ability for you to connect your Community Edition to your enterprise by deploying virtual services or assets that you created in Community Edition to a specific VSE. So you would specify the registry and connect, and once you've connected to your registry, when you're ready to deploy your virtual service, you can either choose your local environment, so your Community Edition, or you could specify a VSE from the list based on what you're connected to. And if you specify, for example, if you're connecting it to a performance VSE, then you can have, you can do more advanced, kind of performance testing against that virtual service that you did build and create in your Community Edition. And now it can be used and leveraged by other folks by connecting it to that VSE. And so just quickly, I am going to kind of change gears. That was sort of a summary of the features and functionality that are available in 10.3. For more information, of course, check out our release notes, and we'd love to hear, thoughts and questions as well. I'm going to jump into how to upgrade so that we will have, how to get Service Virtualization 10.3 and how to get it set up in your environment. Now, the first thing that is required in order to upgrade to 10.3 is to request a new license file. So if you're interested in trying out 10.3, or you're interested in upgrading 10.3, you will need to kind of look at your environment, know the MAC address of where your enterprise dashboard will be installed. You'll want to know who should be sent that license file, and then you can open a support case sharing that information with them, and the support team will send, the email address identified, the new license file. So please put in a support case so that you can start getting access to 10.3. After you have the license file for 10.3, we have some best practices or recommendations to do before you upgrade. The first is to really back up your environment. This includes any assets that you have. It includes your DevTest directory, any databases, so your registry database and your enterprise dashboard database. Just back up your environment so that you have it. You'll also want to prepare for the database migration. This is typically an area where clients have the most challenges, so we want to make sure that you have full DBA privileges set up in your configuration files so that if there is a schema change, right, it can automatically handle and do that. So just make sure that you prepare, specifically thinking about that database migration as well. And of course, you'll want to know all of your IT environment and have that on hand so that you can, update any configurations, or just so that you have that on hand as you're ready to upgrade your environment. In terms of the best practices, we do recommend that clients start with a sandbox environment first. This is low risk. It allows you to validate that you were able to successfully, upgrade to 10.3. It allows teams to have the ability to kind of try out that sandbox environment, ensure their services and tests are working as expected, as well as learn about the new features and functionality that are available. So we typically recommend that clients start by having a sandbox environment, and that they do utilize that sandbox environment initially for some virtual services and tests, just to confirm that everything is working as expected. And then after they've tested that sandbox environment, you are able to upgrade then to the latest version. And we have two ways of upgrading. We have an in-place upgrade. The advantage of this is it allows for us to know what those configuration files are in place now, and utilize those in the upgrade. Or you can upgrade to a new location. This can require, though, updating those configuration files as well. But those are your two options for upgrading. And of course, the steps for upgrading is you're going to download the installer, as well as for 10.3, you are going to put in a support case to request that new license key. You're going to shut down your current applications and services, right, especially if this is an in-place upgrade. You're going to run your installer. Depending if you want to make sure you've got the right information in your property files. If it's in place, it will take what's existing today in your local site Tratus property files, right? But if you need to copy them from another location, or if there's anything that's changed or you need to update, you will want to make sure that you've configured that. Afterwards, you'll want to clear your browser cache. ACL is required, and it's been required since 8.0, but if you are on an older version than that, you should review our access control functionality just to make sure you've got that understood and set up. And then when you're upgrading, you'll need to upgrade all of the components, right, to the latest version. So you'll want to upgrade each component that you have today to the latest version. And once you've got all of your components upgraded, you can go ahead and start each of the services. So starting with your enterprise dashboard, getting that set up, then your registry, and then you can start any of your portals and your VSEs and your coordinators and simulators. After you've upgraded, we do recommend that once you've started all those services, that you really verify that those services are up and running. So verifying the dashboard connectivity, your registry connectivity, all of your components that you've run, that those statuses are running indeed, your portal, and then your workstation connectivity. And then we do recommend as well that you just go ahead and try it out, deploy a virtual service, verify the virtual service is deployed, as well as doing the same thing with a test case or a test suite, deploying and verifying that it successfully ran. Once you've got your system upgraded, you're set to go. But that means there may be questions that you might have along the way. And so I want to share what are the resources or areas where you can go if you have any questions or you need help or you just want to remind yourself about the steps. The first resource that we have available is our release comparison for service virtualization. One of the advantages is today we've talked about 10.3 and what's new, but you may be upgrading from an environment that's older than 10.2, right? And so you might want to know what's new in 10.2 or what's new in 10.1 and know all of the features and functionality that has changed. And this gives a great high level of what are the main features and functionality that have been added since a specific version. So recommend checking out the release comparison and really seeing new functionality that's available from the version you're on to the version you're going to. Additionally, we have documentation focused specifically on the upgrade process as well as the installation process. And so you can get a high-level understanding of how do you prepare your environment, get everything set up so that you can have a smooth and successful upgrade experience. In addition, we have a community upgrade center. This is where we put all of the resources related to upgrades in one section. It's also an opportunity, since you're on the community, to be able to ask experts and colleagues on any advice or recommendations or any questions that you have about the upgrade experience. You can do so via our communities. We do have installation and configuration videos. We do update information, for example, as things change. So for our server installations, it hasn't changed since 10.0, so you can see that there are, YouTube playlists allowing you to understand how to do that type of install and configuration. Our workstation installation did change in 10.2. And there is an additional option to split your data directory from your install directory, allowing users to keep their assets in somewhere different than their install directory, for example, under their users. And so if you want to see more information about that, we also have that information available as well. You can check out our videos on our YouTube channel as well as our education course, which is focused specifically on how to install and configure 10. In this example, it's 10.2, but it hasn't changed. The process for 10.3 has not changed. So you can check out that course, and it will give you all of the information in detail, and you can pick, hey, I only want to know specific information. I'm only setting up server components right now. I really just want to know that piece, and you can find and focus on that specific piece. Another resource, and I really want to highlight this because it's a great opportunity to see what's coming down the road. We've talked about all of the wonderful features and functionality that's available in 10.3, but we want to make sure that you have visibility of what's coming down the road as well. And so we do have roadmap sessions each month, a couple each month for our clients to attend to really understand what is the direction that our service virtualization product is going, and what is kind of guiding us, and the features and functionality that are expected to come down in the future. And so please do join our roadmap session. It's a great opportunity to engage with our product team, as well as to learn about the direction and focus of the product. And finally, if you still need help, of course, CA is here to help. You can contact your support, your account rep, or you can contact us, Kausta, Bordy, or myself if you have additional questions. If you have additional questions, of course you can use the resources as well, but if you have additional questions that haven't been answered, we want to make sure that you get the answers to those questions. And today I just want to summarize what the goals were and what I've hoped that you've taken out of this webcast is really to learn about the new features available in 10.3 so you can start looking at them, getting started with them, as well as understand what are the steps in order to actually get 10.3 into your environment and to try it out. So how can you create that sandbox as well as perform an upgrade and verify that that upgrade was successful. And lastly, of course, making sure that if you do have questions along the way or you need any help, that you can find and access the resources that are available. And so I'm going to take this time to actually review and answer any questions. Melanie, I don't know if you want to kind of highlight some of the ways that people can kind of directly ask questions as well.
Sure. So just a reminder, that's the Q&A box that's in the right-hand panel of your WebEx screen. You can maximize it by clicking on the blue box with the question mark in it at the top right of your WebEx screen. And then you can go ahead and type it into the Q&A box there. Just a reminder, if you do type it into chat, sometimes not everyone can see it, so it's better to put it into the Q&A box. So Kostub has been going through and answered a lot of the questions that have been coming in, but we do have a few that he hasn't gotten to yet. One of the questions is from Venkata. We have a CA DevTest ROI calculator before GA 10.2 and an external link is below. Oh, hold on. I think this is in addition to another question. From GA 10.2, ROI calculator is embedded in the enterprise dashboard. Modified ROI calculator is released along with 10.3 but not external. Okay. And then Kostub said he will look into finding an external link. Okay. Is there a certification with the HP ALM integration?
I do not believe that there is. Kausta, do you have any additional context or anything to add?
Okay. Kostub, just a reminder. Oh, yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, so we had certified a few prior versions of HP ALM in the past. What version of ALM are you using? I think that's the question here.
So, Kajendra, if you'd like to unmute your line, it's #6, and you can do it that way. This way we can talk about the version of DevTest that you're on and figure out. Oh, he said 10.2. The version of DevTest is 10.2, or he said 12.2, but I think maybe meant 10.2.
I think that's the HP ALM that he's using.
Oh, okay.
Kausta, are you still there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm here. I know we had certified a few versions of ALM in the past. I'm sure it was 12.x that was certified. And, we can take a look into that and get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I have it here. So we are certified for 12.2, 12.2.1, 12.5, and 12.53 is what we had certified.
Okay.
So if you have any issues, please feel free to reach out to Beverly or myself.
Okay, so just a reminder, any additional questions you have, the Q&A box is where you can ask them, or at this time we'll also open up the phone line for questions. If you'd like to ask a question over the phone, you can click #6 on your telephone keypad to unmute yourself, and you can just chime in and ask any questions you have now. We do have another question that just came in from Jamie. The communication port to connect the registry, is that the same?
Correct. The process of, setting up your environment and connecting is the same. You can define it right in your configuration files, or you can use the default that's available.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, guys?
And as I was viewing the questions, I do want to add one more thing about the service catalog. The service catalog does require you being on 10.3. It does utilize, right? I know you're connecting enterprise dashboard connections, but you do need to ensure, right, that you are utilizing 10.3 for the entire product in order to utilize all of the features and functionality in the service catalog. So it does require an upgrade.
Okay, thanks, Beverly.
And I do also see that there's another question about Oracle IQ, and that they can see that that's available within the release notes. We didn't highlight every single feature and functionality that's available, so again, do look at the release notes to see a list of all of the functionality that has been added in 10.3. We did just focus and highlight on specific functionality that we thought would broadly affect the group. And so the release notes are accurate.
Okay, we have another question in from Aravind. Is there any way that we can analyze the transactions at a network level like Wireshark?
I am not aware of that specific functionality. The goal, again, of the Enterprise Dashboard Reports is really to give a high-level overview of the functionality. It's not to look at everything that has happened over the wire. Kaustubh, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, good answer, Beverly. I think that's what it is.
Okay, any other questions, guys? Just a reminder, Q&A box or #6 to unmute yourself and ask a question over the phone. Okay, if there are no more questions, then I think we're okay to wrap up for today. Beverly, Kaustubh, did you have anything else you wanted to cover before we close up?
No, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. We really are glad that you're able to participate, and we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on 10.3. So feel free to reach out or share on the community, but we look forward to your feedback and thoughts.
All right, yeah, exactly, perfect. So as Beverly said, any feedback or questions that you think of later on, you can always feel free to reach out to us or put it in the communities. We also just launched a poll. Please let us know what you thought of the topic today. We like to take your feedback when planning out future sessions. So if you like these types of sessions where we have covering the new release and also the upgrade, let us know so we can schedule more of those out for the future. Other than that, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you out in the communities. Hope everyone has a great day. Thank you, Beverly and Kaustubh.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly.